consolidated credit, but maybe they're on their way. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out to our purchase assistance information session. We're hoping to provide you with some vital information today that's going to help you in the home buying process. Today, who is here from staff is myself. I'm Carolyn Francis Royer. I serve as the Community Development, Housing and Community Development Manager here in the city of Tamarack. With me, I have Shakivia Smith Jackson. She is one of our housing coordinators. And we also have Michael Givens, who is our office coordinator. He is in the driver's seat down there, gonna help us with our PowerPoint. We also have guest speakers for you today. We have a representative from Hope Incorporated to bring you some fair housing information. As an entitlement jurisdiction, we are required by HUD to affirmatively further fair housing. And this is one of the events that we use to satisfy that requirement. So we have Charmaine Williams from Hope. She's going to bring you some information about fair housing. We also have Michelle Colley, who is with City National. That's going to give you some information. Also in the audience, we do have Bonnie Bonato from Bank of America. She's in the back. She has flyers about their program as well that you can use as a resource. We have Marilyn from Housing Foundation. She's always around. She's one of the agencies that we partner with, Housing Foundation, to provide certification assistance. She's also a wealth of information. So when we get to questions and answers, Marilyn will definitely help us out. Okay, on behalf of the City Commission, Mayor Gomez, City Manager Levent, and Assistant City Manager Maxine, we welcome you. Okay, so we don't waste any time. I'm gonna get right into the presentation, so most of the time can be saved for your questions. All right, so Michael, if you can forward the presentation. And make sure we're recording, since we're gonna be putting this on our website. Our famous disclaimer, the 8-hour workshop, this is not it, this is 2 hours. So the 8-hour workshop, you do have to take advantage of the resource on our website where we have a list of organizations that do provide that class. It's 8 hours. This is just an information session, not that class. Also, we have Oasis. Anyone here from Oasis of Hope? No, they're not here yet. Okay. All right. So the next slide should be Hope Incorporated's presentation. Take it away, Charmaine.
Alrighty, so good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Charmaine Williams. I do work for an organization called Hope Inc. We are a nonprofit fair housing center, and I'm here to discuss with you, what your rights are regarding fair housing. Next slide, please. We've been in business for about 35 years now, since 1988. We cover 2 counties, which are Dade and Broward. Our mission is to fight housing discrimination in both of those counties, but also to ensure equal housing opportunities throughout the state of Florida. So what that means is that yes, we cover Dade and Broward counties, but we also partner with a lot of wonderful organizations throughout the state to provide education to folks like yourselves so that you are aware of what your rights are, whether it's for renting or for purchasing. Now we operate on what we, that's okay. We operate on what we call our 3-tier program. The first tier is education and outreach, so that's what this is. Our second tier is intake and counseling. So what that means is that if someone feels that they have been discriminated against, what they would do is they would call our office and we would do an intake. A lot of times, though, we do get calls that are more landlord-tenant related situations that we cannot assist with because we're not attorneys in our office. But there are times that we do get calls that sound like there might be something discriminatory happening. And in those cases, when we get those calls, we do what we call testing. Testing is just basically mystery shopping, where we send out folks who match the profile of the complainant to test an apartment complex, a lender, a realtor, whatever it may be, and then we send out testers that are the complete opposite. And then based on the information that we get back in their reports, that will let us know if there's something discriminatory going on. And if it is discrimination, it leads us to our third tier, which is enforcement. We feel that if housing providers are violating the law, they should be held accountable for their actions. So that's just a little bit about how our organization works. Next slide, please. We're always looking for testers. So if anyone would like to sign up to become a tester, you can take down our testing coordinator's information. They provide training, they'll let you know what paperwork you need to fill out, and then we also pay our testers for their time. I don't like to get people too excited with the we pay our testers for their time because it's not enough for you to quit your full-time job. It is enough though for you that maybe you could put gas in your car, get a little extra groceries, or perhaps put it towards your savings account for this home that you're looking to purchase. Okay, so if you want more information, you can definitely reach out to them and they will answer any questions that you have. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about what the Fair Housing Act is. So a little bit of history for you. In 1968, after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., President Lyndon Johnson signed into place what is known as the Federal Fair Housing Act. Now, the Fair Housing Act basically gives all of us our right to choose where we want to live. The only thing with that is that we need to be able to afford where we want to live. So hopefully that's making sense. Now, the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing-related transactions such as sales, rentals, lending, insurance, and advertising based on certain protected classes. Next slide, please. Those protected classes include race, color, national origin, sex, religion, familial status, and disability. Those are the 7 federal reasons that you cannot be denied housing or treated unfairly in housing. Now, most states across the nation have statewide protection. State of Florida is no different. We have HIV status and pregnancy as our 2 statewide protections, although those can technically fall under disability and familial status. Now, Dade and Broward County have what we call local protections. So some common ones between both counties, even though I know we're in Broward and this is Tamarack, but I'm still gonna let you know. Common ones between both counties would include age, being a victim of domestic violence, gender expression or identity, marital status, sexual orientation, and lawful source of income. And on top of all of those that I just mentioned, Broward also has political affiliation, veteran or service member status, and then victims of human trafficking, which is our most recent. So those are all of our localized protections. And again, more reasons that you cannot be denied housing. Next slide, please. Now, those were all of our protections and the reasons that you cannot be told no. But there are reasons that you can be told no, okay? So there is a difference between discrimination and disqualification. So the first lawful reason that you can be denied housing is your credit score, which makes sense. We live in the United States where they use credit for practically everything, some employment, obviously housing, getting a vehicle. If you want that brand new iPhone, whatever number we're on now, and you can't afford to pay for it outright, they are going to do a credit check in order to finance you for that phone, okay? Every lender is going to have a minimum credit score that you're going to need to meet in order to qualify. And if you don't meet that score, that can be a reason that you are denied, all right? The second reason that you can lawfully be denied housing is your income. Now, not your source of income, which is a protection within Dade and Broward County, but how much money you make. So I said it earlier that you have the right to choose where you want to live. You just need to be able to afford it. All right. And if you can't afford the mortgage payments plus the property taxes, the homeowner's insurance, etc., then you won't be able to qualify for a mortgage. Hoping that all this is making sense. The third reason that you can lawfully be denied the housing is criminal background. And when I say criminal background, I mean felony convictions. Lenders don't usually check your criminal history. I have heard some that have, but it's usually for a purchase, would be a homeowners association or a condo association. Every organization is different. So I can't sit here and tell you that it is a 2-year background check across the board. Association A might do 2 years, but Association B might do 4. Now, Association A has to do 2 years for every applicant that comes through their door. Background checks are kind of hard for us to test. I never tell people, go in and fill out an application and be like, hey, how far back do you go in criminal history? Because then that might set off red flags. So it is kind of hard for us to test, but still it should be the same for every applicant that walks through their door. So hopefully this is making sense. The fourth reason that you can lawfully be denied is history of evictions. Pretty self-explanatory, mainly for rentals. Evictions are time-consuming, costly. No one really wants to have to deal with them. And a history of evictions shows a pattern of either non-payment of rent or lease violations. So that's a reason that you can be denied as well. And then the fifth and final reason would be previous residential reference check, or just more simply put, residential references. Okay, so just like a potential employer can call your previous employer to find out how you were as an employee, a potential landlord can call your previous landlord to find out how you were as a tenant. And it can't be, well, oh, I didn't like that person because every time I went in their apartment, it smelled like cabbage. That's not enough of a reason. It has to be, well, they didn't pay their rent on time every month. They destroyed the unit or vandalized the property. There were noise complaints. They called the cops on their unit all the time. Those are things that are going to be documented and in your tenant file, and they would be legitimate reasons for a potential landlord to deny you that housing, okay? Now, your housing provider, and that's whoever you're filling out this application with for housing, has 45 days from the date of your completed application to let you know in writing why you were denied the housing. And it has to be for 1, 2, 3, 4, or all 5 of those reasons that I just mentioned. But those are the only lawful reasons that you can be denied housing, all right? So hopefully, again, this is all making sense. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk to you quickly about additional protections. Additional protections are for those with disabilities or for those who have someone in the household with a disability. So there's reasonable modification and there's reasonable accommodation. Reasonable modification deals with structural changes around the unit or in the property for that person with the disability. The person requesting the modification is usually the person responsible for paying for said modification. Reasonable modifications examples include, a grab bar in the shower, a ramp from the parking lot up onto the sidewalk for a person with a wheelchair. Those are examples of reasonable modifications. Now, the person doing the modification has to be a licensed contractor. We don't want to ask a friend of a friend or a friend's neighbor or uncle or cousin or sister or husband, whoever it may be, to do this work for you. We want to make sure that the people doing the modification have the proper licensing, insurance, and the permits to get it done. Because if something were to happen, then who would be held liable if you didn't take the proper route? So that's reasonable modifications. Reasonable accommodations deal with policy changes or rules. So for example, condos have assigned parking spaces. A person with a disability who perhaps has an issue breathing or maybe an issue walking wouldn't want their parking space to be way over there, and this is their building to get to their unit. So them requesting a closer assigned parking spot is an example of a reasonable accommodation request. And the same thing goes for an apartment complex that does not have any assigned parking spaces. Perhaps that person gets home later than everyone else. So them requesting an assigned parking spot for them that's close to their building so they have ease of access to their unit is an example of a reasonable accommodation request, okay? Next slide, please. Now I'm going to talk to you all quickly about predatory lending. Predatory lenders are not always bankers, loan officers, mortgage brokers, etc. Predatory lenders can be anyone that is going to provide you with an item or a service, have you sign a contract agreeing to pay for said item or service, either in A, monthly installment payments, or B, paid in full at a later date. So for example, you have contractors that can be predatory lenders. They come out, they do work on your home, $10,000 to $15,000 worth of work. You don't have $10,000 to $15,000 just laying around. So you sign a contract agreeing to pay them X amount of dollars monthly. Somewhere down the line, you miss a payment, maybe 2, and they now own your home. That is an example of predatory lending. That's an extreme example of predatory lending, but it's still an example. But in this case, we're talking about loan officers, mortgage brokers, the folks that you're filling out this application with for this loan, for this mortgage. Predatory lenders are going to be very high pressured salesmen and women. They're going to act like they're your only hope to get into a home. They're going to try and sweet talk you or fast talk you into signing documents that you have not read or that you do not fully understand. So from your application all the way up until your closing documents, and hopefully you figure this out before you get to your closing documents, but from your application all the way up until your closing documents, you want to make sure that you are reading everything, that you understand everything. If you have questions, ask them. If they're not willing to answer those questions, then maybe you find a new lender to work with, okay? Fill out your application honestly, don't lie. If it doesn't apply to you, put NA. When you get to the demographic section of your application, that's the part that asks, are you Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Pacific Islander, etc. Fill that section out. It is not there because, oh, they want to be all in your business. It's there so that way they can see the demographics of the areas that they're serving, but also to see if there is a trend in denials based on a certain demographic and approvals based on a certain demographic. So you want to fill that out. And if you don't want to fill it out because you think something's going to happen or they're going to deny you based on that, then put I choose not to respond. There is nothing stopping someone from who's doing something malicious, that's not right, that's discriminating, from filling out that section for you if you leave it blank, just to make themselves look good. So don't give someone the opportunity to do that. Don't fall for, ooh, no credit, no problem, bad credit, no problem. They're lying to you, your credit is an issue. Okay, this is not a car dealership on 441 where they're gonna say buy here, pay here, you work, you drive, we finance everybody. Get your credit to where it needs to be, because they're gonna sell you a car from 1902 with hundreds of thousands of miles on it with a 30% interest rate. No, that's not what we're looking for. Get your credit to where it needs to be, so that way you get the best terms and conditions for you. Also, if it sounds too good to be true, I am going to say 9 times out of 10, it probably is, okay? Why I say 9 times out of 10? The reason I do that is because there are financial institutions that offer great incentives to first-time homebuyers, but they don't offer these incentives 365 days a year, all right? You may see a lender that says, you know, conventional loan, 5% down, 650 credit score for first-time homebuyers. That's great. You're not gonna see it all the time. You may see up to $8,500 towards your closing costs if you qualify for first-time home buyers. That's awesome, but it's not all of the time. Now, if you see something that says we can get you into the house of your dreams, no credit check, no income verification, then that's something you may want to run for the hills for, okay? So you always want to pay attention. Next slide, please. So this is the end. I do it quickly because I know there's a lot more information that you have to get, and we're going to be here for a really long time if I talk to you in depth about housing discrimination. But this is our contact information. I want you all to always be aware that discrimination isn't blatant and in your face. I don't want to rent to you cuz, or I don't want to sell to you cuz. It is usually discrimination with a handshake and a smile. Like, oh, thank you for coming, but I just rented the unit. Or you find a house with your realtor, you're ready to go under contract, and the seller's like, you know what? I don't want to sell my house anymore. I think I want to keep it. There's too many memories here. But it's still listed because they didn't want to sell it to you. All right. So these are the things that you need to look at. If you feel something's happening and you're not sure, call us. If you know it's really happening, call us. And if you fell asleep during my 15 to 20 minutes speaking, then you can check out our website, hopefhc.com, and all of our information is on there. I also did bring some brochures and newsletters at the back for you guys that you can help yourselves to. Our information is on that as well. Okay, and we'll be around for question and answers later.
All right, thank you, Charmaine. Thank you. Short and sweet. I hope you find this information useful because it's very important, and that is one of the reasons why HUD requires us to talk to folks about this. There is discrimination out there, but you don't have to just accept it. All right, Michael, go to the next slide. All right, so now for information on why you are here. Our first-time homebuyers open enrollment begins on Monday, April 15th. So you might want to write that date down. So today we are closing, right? We're closing the current 2023 portal. So anyone that has already put their name on the list for this current year, we're purging the list today. and it's going to be closed until the 15th, where we open the 2024 program year. So it will start on April 15th at 8 a.m. Okay, there are some stipulations that we put in place just to make sure that we save you time and we save our staff time as well. In order for us to process your application, you must have a contract on a property in Tamarack. There's no exceptions. If you go on our website and you put your name on the list that you're interested in the purchase assistance program, your name is there, but we don't process your application until you actually let us know, hey, I have a contract and I have a first mortgage commitment from a lender and I'm ready for the down payment. At that point, we process your application, we do your income certification, and then determine what category you fall in. A first-time home buyer is anyone that has not owned a property within the last 3 years. Eligible properties include single-family, townhomes, and condominiums. We require only a 1% contribution from each purchaser. And for example, you see there on a house that's $317,000, you'll be required to have $3,100 of your own money. And you do not get that back at closing. That goes towards your down payment and closing costs. And one of the big things about our program that folks sometimes don't pay attention to until the last minute is that we have a 15-year affordability period. We require you to stay in the home for 15 years. It is a deferred loan. If you decide to sell, rent, or anything to the property within that 15-year period, we require payment. So how we have restructured our maximum award for this upcoming year. As you can see on the screen, for folks that are very low or extremely low income, the award is up to $85,000. For low income is $75,000, and for moderate income, it's still $40,000. This is just the income chart, so you can see where, depending on your household income, where you would fall and what type of assistance you may be able to receive. You'll see that the $85,000 covers anyone at 50% or any household at 50% the area median income and below. $75,000 is 80% and below, and $40,000 for 120% to 140%. We don't go all the way up to 140. Our maximum purchase price is $382,194. I know Broward County has recently raised their maximum purchase price. We will not raise our maximum purchase price until probably 2025. One of the other important things I wanted to tell you about is the asset cap that we have established in our program. One of the things we've noticed that many of our applicants would have large amount of liquid assets. And even though we count a percentage of that towards the income certification, we were basically having to assist folks that have a large amount of cash that they can use towards whether it's purchase, which why you guys are here, and also in our rehabilitation program. So we've established an asset cap. If you have $25,000 to $100,000 in the bank, a third of that will have to go towards the purchase. And how we work that out, we would deduct it from the amount that you would be awarded. And Shakivia is going to go through the application process. Please pay attention. I know it's a lot of information. It's very tedious, but if you follow the process, we can close your deal quickly. The lender will appreciate it, the realtor will appreciate it, and so would we. So please pay attention to the application process.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shakivia Smith-Jackson, and I'm a housing coordinator with the City of Tamarack, and I'm going to go over the application process with you. So as Carolyn mentioned, the application opens April 15th at 8 a.m. And what the pre-application is, it just lets us know that you're interested in the program and you're out looking for a property. So after you submit your pre-application, you're going to take your 8-hour first-time homebuyer class and obtain a certificate. And then you're going to meet with a loan officer at a financial institution. It could be a bank, your credit union, but you need a pre-approval letter. And then after you get your pre-approval letter, you're going to contact a realtor, and then the realtor will help you find a property in the City of Tamarack, and you'll need your executed sales contract. We need those 2 items or documents before we start processing your application. Once you email us those 2 documents, then we'll open the portal so you can upload all of your required documents. Next slide. The city requires a full inspection report, not a 4-point, a full inspection report, and also a termite inspection. The income certification process is 3 to 4 weeks. At that time, we'll determine whether you fall below the income categories that we showed you previously. You'll receive an award letter, and then you'll close and we'll wire the funds. Once the funds are exhausted, we'll send you an email letting you know that the program is closed. The program is first ready, first served. Next slide. This is an example of a first-time homebuyer certificate, and it must come from a HUD-certified counseling agency. And you can find a list of HUD-certified counselors on our website, which is tamarack.me/down payment assistance. If you need to, you could take a picture of the website. I'll give you a second. And that website is also where you'll find the pre-application on April 15th. Okay, this is a screenshot of our software called Neighborly, and this is where you will apply. So we have several programs. You'll select down payment assistance and click start application. And this is what the pre-application looks like. We only require your contact information, as you can see. You can go back to the previous slide, Michael. After that, the next one. Yeah, so at the bottom, make sure you hit complete and submit. Once you hit complete and submit, you'll receive an email confirmation. You want to make sure you receive that email confirmation. This is what it looks like. Sometimes it goes into the spam folder, so you want to check your spam folder if you don't see it in your inbox. Next slide. This is a sample of a pre-approval letter and a purchase contract. These are the 2 documents that we need to proceed with processing your application.
Also, please remember to write down your password for Neighborly. Many folks, when they create duplicate applications, because when they try to go back into the system, they're being locked out because their they're not writing down the password or using the same password, and then they just create another profile, which jams up the system, and it's time consuming for you. And then you call us, and then we have to go in, and then we realize you created 2 applications. So when you go in the system, please create your user and write down your password.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, so this is the required document section. Once you have your pre-approval letter and your executed contract, then you'll email the city. We'll open up the portal. This is what it looks like. So if you look on the left-hand side, the panel, you see all the sections. Section G is required documents. Here is where you'll upload all the required documents. If a section has required next to it, you must upload it, or else you can't proceed with the application. Next slide. So this program is a deferred loan. What that means is it's a 15-year deferred loan. You must remain in the property for 15 years. You cannot sell the property or rent it out. If you do, the money then becomes due to the city. There's no monthly payments, no interest rates. The only thing is you have to remain in the property for 15 years. After the 14th year, the deferred loan is forgiven by 50%. Next slide.
All right, so we have a representative from Consolidated Credit here to give you some information, which is very beneficial if you're seriously thinking about home ownership. So I will allow our representative to speak, introduce herself, and give you the information.
Thank you very much. My name is Doris Baker. I'm a financial educator at Consolidated Credit, and I am here to just give you a very brief overview when it comes to budgeting, savings, and your credit as we look into home ownership. Okay, so here's just a little something you can see on your slide about Consolidated Credit. We're located right here in Broward County. We are a HUD-approved nonprofit 501c3 agency. Our mission is to assist families throughout the United States in ending housing and financial crisis. And how do we accomplish this? Through education and personal housing, as well as debt and credit counseling. Next slide, please. So as I always do, you will learn if I ever come again, I get ahead of myself because I'm chatty Patty, okay? So you can see from the slide that we offer the free counseling, debt management services, which we won't really get into that. And then you see the list of the other services that we offer. And we do this at my favorite 4-letter word, which is FREE, free, at no cost to you. Next slide, please. So budgeting and savings for home ownership. Anyone currently have a household budget, a sustainable household budget? You don't have to raise your hands. You just know within yourself if you're keeping track of your income. So I will say this at this juncture: if you do not have a budget, if you're here today, that means that you're in pursuit or you're on the pathway to home ownership. It would behoove you to begin to create a budget, because a budget, a lot of people will think, you know, that's so constricting. I work hard for my money, this, that, and the third. However, it is our belief that a budget is simply a roadmap. And you're the master, you're the creator of that roadmap, because you're telling your money what to do instead of the other way around, your money telling you what to do, okay? As we move on to the next slide. So how do we even start with creating a budget? So we have some just simple steps there for you to follow, or just to even put into your own scheme of things. But you always are going to have a first step with a budget. That means you need money coming in. So if you're here and you don't have any source of income, yeah. Okay, so we're going to You're also going to have to take note of your monthly expenses, your fixed expenses, your changing expenses. You're going to take all of that into consideration. I would like to say, as a homework assignment, and you may never see me again, but you're going to think about this homework assignment. Pull up your bank statement from last month, your most recent bank statement, and go over that bank statement. Look at the bank statement. You're going to see your rent payment. You're going to see your fixed expenses, such as your car payment, car insurance, those things that don't change. You're also going to see your flexible expenses. What are my flexible expenses? Those are things that I have to have every month. However, there are things that I can do to change those expenses, like your groceries. We all need that Publix app and clip those clipless coupons. Pardon the play on the words, okay? And it's nothing for Publix. I go anywhere that I can save money. But those flexible expenses are things that we have to have, but we can do something about it, okay? Our electric bill, we can set the thermostats and all of that type of thing. And then I have a category that I always like to mention that is probably not on your slide, and it is our discretionary expenses. Those are things that if the pandemic taught us anything, it taught us that we could go without getting our nails done. And that pedicure, come on now, it taught us that we could go without getting, I went natural during the pandemic, okay? So there's certain things could we get in Macy's to get that foundation? Okay, I won't bore you with it. So with all of that in mind, we need to then evaluate our expenses, because our income may stay steady, but our expenses could change, and it could change due to our behaviors, be it good or bad. So I told you I was chatty Patty. I'm moving on. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about credit. One thing I do want you to know, that even though cash is king, K-I-N-G, credit is key, K-E-Y. So regardless, you're still going to have to monitor your credit, especially when you begin to tiptoe through the tulips on that pathway to home ownership. I also would like to inform you that credit is a privilege, and how we handle it really depends on how far we can go as far as credit is concerned. Next slide, please. I had a lot more to say, howbeit ever. Keeping in mind that Consolidated Credit is a HUD-approved credit counseling agency, nonprofit housing agency. We will conduct an in-person first-time homebuyer workshop, where upon completion and submission of the required documents, you will receive that 8-hour certificate of completion that you can use to obtain purchase payment or down payment assistance. If you're able to, you can go ahead and take a look at that QR code. If you're able to zoom in and register from there, or you can just simply take a picture of the slide itself, and that has our registration information. Next slide, please, if there's one. So I guess questions will be later, but thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much. A lot of good information. Okay, so now we are going to have Miss Michelle Colley from City National to give us some information about their City Smart program.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone's getting a lot of information. Everybody remember what their homework assignment from Ms. Doris is, right? Your budget. You're gonna look at the bank statements to see how much you spent. Yeah, so you could create the budget. Yes, sir. So I actually call budget spending plans, because the budget word just makes me cringe, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you mean I can't get my nails done? But I will say this, a good budget or spending plan makes you a prepared home buyer. So it is important for you to understand how much money you have coming in, where the money is going out. It doesn't mean that you can't get your hair or nails done, but if I'm choosing to make that my non-negotiable, then I'm probably going to give up something else, right? So let's get to talking a little bit about our bank's City Smart program. My name is Michelle Colley, and I'm the director of CRA, which is Community Reinvestment Act for City National Bank of Florida. Our City Smart mortgage makes homeownership accessible. Our bank is committed to helping the communities that we serve, and this particular mortgage that I'm going to share with you is designed to assist low to moderate income first-time home buyers to purchase or refinance a home. So some of the program details include, and some of these particulars are going to be very detailed. So for example, you can do up to 97%, and LTV stands for the loan to value. So that means the value of the home, your purchase price, and the loan amount, the percentage of the loan amount is a maximum of 97%. And then we'll do up to 105%, what's called the combined loan to value. That combined loan to value would include the funds that you're getting from the city of Tamarack that was previously explained by Ms. Smith Jackson. There's no private mortgage insurance required, PMI. Anybody ever heard what PMI stands for? Heard that term before? Okay, so PMI is an insurance that protects the bank. So if you don't pay us back, which that's not what we want you to be prepared and be able to stay in your home. But if you don't pay us back, that insurance actually covers the loan amount for the bank. So that's what PMI is. So certain programs such as FHA or some conventional programs, you may have heard some of those terms, they come with PMI. Our particular program for our City Smart does not have PMI included in your monthly payment. So that can make your monthly payment a little bit more affordable. That's one of the benefits. We also give up to a $5,000 grant, non-repayable, no lien against the property, and that can be used towards closing costs and down payment assistance. And that's in addition to what you receive from the city of Tamarack or any other down payment assistance sources. For qualified low to moderate income individuals that meet the income guidelines, and we're going to go over what our income guidelines are as defined by the FFIEC, which is our governing, regulating body of City National Bank. Now, the low 30-year fixed rate, anybody know what rates are right now, approximately, in the marketplace? I'll give you a hint. Michael's down here holding up 6, 7, 8. Those are where rates are. So this slide is actually, I should have updated it, but this was as of last year, March. But this year, March, we're not that much higher than this number. We're at 4.5%. So we're on a 30-year fix. This is not an adjustable rate mortgage. Okay, so when it comes to looking at affordability, you want to make sure that your interest rate is a fixed rate, and you also want to make sure that it makes your mortgage payment affordable. So the lower the rate is, the more home you can afford. That's for borrowers that are at 100% of the area median income and below. We also have a City Smart Workforce and our City Smart Plus that are slightly higher interest rates, but they're still well below market rates. Our first-time home buyer is defined as any borrower that has not owned any real estate or been on the title of real estate in the last 3 years. So our guidelines are very similar to what the city of Tamarack just explained as far as a first-time home buyer. So I've had clients that come to me and they say, oh, but I'm on my mom's home. I'm on the title of my mom's home. I didn't buy it. I don't own it. She put me on there in case something happens. You would not be eligible for our regular City Smart product because you're not considered a first-time home buyer because you've been on the title of that property. And we can definitely answer any specific questions you have related to that. Next slide, please. Of course, these are the eligible counties, and Broward County is one of them. And next slide. And here's our income limits. So if your total household income in Broward County is less than $65,680, which is, these are different income limits than what you just saw from the city of Tamarack, right? The bank has our own income limits. So $65,680, if you're below that, you would get our regular City Smart loan. If you're between $65,680 and that $114,940 number, then you would get between either our City Smart Workforce or City Smart Plus. So we have 3 different products to be able to help you to become a homeowner. If you're between the 65,000 and the 114,000, then your property would have to be located in what we call a low or moderate census tract. And we would work with your realtor and be able to determine if the property that you're looking at meets that requirement. Next slide for me, please. So you heard Ms. Doris talk about the fact that credit is key, right? Remember that? She said cash is king, credit is key. So for us, our minimum credit score is only a 620. But we do look at the body of the credit. So you may have a 620 score, but we also are looking for you to have at least 3 trade lines, which are 3 different accounts that are open and older than 12 months. If you have no credit score, you can still do our City Smart program. So you could have a 0 credit score, and what we'll do is we'll get letters from alternative credit sources, such as your rental verification, maybe a letter from FPL. So what I don't want you to do is leave this workshop and say, oh, I've got to go open 3 credit cards, right? That's not what you're going to do. You're going to leave this workshop and you're going to work with Consolidated Credit and one of the other HUD counseling agencies that's represented here, Housing Foundation, Oasis was another one that was mentioned that might be here. So you would work with those counseling agencies to see exactly where your credit score is and what you would need to become mortgage ready. For us, we have the same minimum buyer contribution that the city of Tamarack does. It's a 1% of the sales price, and that cannot be from the gift or the down payment assistance. That's your own funds. And our maximum debt to income ratio is 45%. And the properties that are allowed are very similar to the ones that the city of Tamarack mentioned: condos, single family homes, townhomes. For condos, we do require a condo questionnaire, a budget. And if the condo is over 40 years, we require the 40-year certification. And you can click through for me, please. One more slide. So I mentioned again, because I do like to let everyone know that you can get up to $5,000 towards your closing costs and down payment assistance. That's our City National Down Payment Assistance Program that's specifically for borrowers that are doing our City Smart Mortgage. There's no reserves required, meaning that we're not looking to see how much you have left over. Just like the city of Tamarack, we require the 8-hour certification of completion from a HUD certified counseling agency. So you would go to that 8-hour class that Ms. Doris mentioned. That's on April 27th. I hope each of you took a picture, or you can go ahead and use the QR code that she had, and that would be the same class. Your certificate is good for 12 months. So I encourage each of you to go ahead and take that class if you anticipate home ownership in the next 12 months, if you haven't taken it already. We do allow up to 6% seller contribution, and we don't have a minimum loan amount. So some lenders that you talk to will have, oh, if the loan amount's less than 60,000, we can't do it. We don't have a minimum loan amount, so we're able to layer the down payment assistance. If there are other programs or other down payment assistance matching programs through the county, any of that, to make your loan amount as low as possible. We do work with community land trusts, and I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Section 8 homeownership, but we are one of the lenders that allow that program as well. That's it. So I will definitely answer questions you have during the Q&A. I also wanted to take a point of privilege and just introduce my teammate Lennon that's here. And he has flyers that he can hand out about the program as well. And it has his contact information. He's the loan officer that covers Broward County, specifically the city of Tamarack. And we do have 2 other loan officers on our team.
Okay, so I just want to make it known that the city has limited funds available for individuals in the moderate income category, which is 120% AMI. Michael, could you go back to the slide, the income chart, please? Right there. One more. There you go. Okay, so you may want to take a picture of this. So funds are limited for moderate. So you could just, by reviewing the chart, see where you fall. If you fall within the moderate income category, the funds for the program are limited. Okay, you can go back to the Q&A.
You can leave it there, actually.
Okay.
You can leave it there, Michael. So we're at the part where you're going to ask questions. But to add to what Shakivia is saying, most of our funds are for low-income households, 80% and below. Our SHIP program, which is a state program, does allow up to 120%. However, we're restricted on how much we can use. So each year, we always run out of SHIP funds for folks because mainly last year, most of our buyers, I would say maybe 90% of our buyers were at 120%, and we had to tell them, okay, we had to stop taking applications because we ran out of funds that are earmarked for households at 120%. And one of the things that were pushing folks over that 80%, we talked about, and I know Marilyn has talked about with her clients, is regular cash deposits, Cash App, Zelle, Venmo, whatever. Those cash deposit, if somebody is sending you $50 every week, whether it's for dinner or movie or whatever, we count it as income. And that was one of the issues with many folks as well. No, I'm not 120, but once you go over 80, you're counted into that 120 category. So if you know that you're getting yourself ready to purchase a home and you're gonna apply for assistance, whether it's in Tamarack or any municipality, because we all have to use the same guidelines, and you want folks to send you money, I suggest they hold off on doing that because we are going to count it as income. And if it pushes you into that category and there's no funds left, it's unfortunate, but we will not be able to assist if we have no more funds at that income level. So with that, we do have a couple of mics. Michael, I think they're in the front. For folks that have questions, raise your hands. Michael will bring you a mic and you can ask questions with any one of us here on the panel. There's one there.
Testing. Okay. Hi, thank you. I just wanted to clarify the last point you mentioned about the cash apps and Zelles and things of that. Are you looking for a specific frequency, or any and every cash app and Zelle will be counted towards income?
Marilyn, you want to come up here?
Well, I'll actually answer it while Marilyn's coming up. From the bank's point of view, it depends on the amounts, right? So if you're just doing $20, every couple of weeks, $50 every couple of weeks, we might not question those. But when we see recurring amounts or the same name, because the name is listed there, we see the same name and it's a consistent amount, yes, we will question. So the higher, of course, is going to be an automatic question. The lower the amount, but if it's a lot of lower, if you have $20 and you get 10 of them a day, that's now $200. It adds up pretty quick. So I would tell you this, like Lennon knows how I am with the clients. You want to buy a house, you got to stop helping everybody. From this day forth, you don't need to be the one that, I'm going to take the money, you sell it to me, and then I'm going to pay that bill for you. You can't help anybody else. You're going to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help everybody else, because you want to become a homeowner. Okay, but I'll let Marilyn answer the legal way.
Okay. Well, usually if we see it going into your bank 2 to 3 months consecutively, and it's usually 3, then we look at it as income. And one of the other things is the partner. The partner account is a big problem. A lot of people say it's their savings account, it's their own money, but it is income, and we count that. And if you have a partner, the person holding the money must be able to give you a copy of the ledgers of the payout who's getting paid out, the frequency and everything. So you have to make sure that person is willing to do that, that money is being held in some type of account where they can verify it. But yeah, consistency is usually 3 months or more.
Thank you, Marilyn. Yes.
And it doesn't have to be from the same person. Like if you're getting cash apps every month, then it goes on and on.
Does that answer your question?
Like to her point, like there's a lot of, if we're at dinner, somebody pays, cash out. But my children, they're always every day, they're asking for something. I'm like, send me back my change. So that's what I was asking, like how they look at it. But okay.
If you get ready to buy a house, just kind of have your little cash reserve so you have really clean bank statements. The cleaner your statements are, it goes through so much quicker.
Yeah, at least for the time that, you know, you're in the process of trying to purchase a house. After you finish purchase, then, you know, you can go back to it. With a budget, right? Right, Ms. Doris? All right. There was another question. She was, I think, Michael, I think she was like one of the first ones.
Good afternoon. I want to ask a question about the same Zelle and Cash App.
Oh.
Because I pay my rent through either Zelle or Cash App. Is that a problem?
No, that's not, oh, I'm sorry, me. That's not money. We're worried about money coming in. You're paying that out.
Another question. If you lend someone, my daughter always asking me for money borrowed. And sometimes I tell her, send it to me through Zelle.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
She can't get any more help right now.
Okay.
Okay, because the thing is, if we see it too often, that she's sending you money and her name is on there, that's exactly the money we are talking about.
Okay.
Even though that is your daughter and you're helping her and maybe you helped her in the past, you're just gonna tell her, listen, from now on, mommy can't do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not until after you buy the house, after.
Hello, good afternoon. Suppose you're doing a small business and your money going to buy your merchandise, things like that.
So it all depends from our point of view as the lender. That small business is income, right? It depends on whether you're reporting it on your tax returns on a Schedule C. Do you have a actual business tax return? Or is it just that you have this business and all that money is going in and out? That's exactly what we're speaking on.
No, this reported to the government.
If it's in your personal account, we're gonna count it as income. If you
I
have
had
a business, then you should have a
account.
business account. And then you should have, when you file your taxes for your business, we have to see evidence that this is your business income, because that also is looked at when we're doing your income certification. Because if you have a business and you have income, I'm sure you're paying yourself. So there's gonna be income from that business that goes into our calculation as well.
Okay.
And we're
Marilyn?
also gonna ask for a profit and loss. You can give that.
Okay.
A 12-month profit and loss.
Okay.
That you can show what you paid for your expenses and
Yes.
net. But you gotta make sure it works, because you can't write it all off of the down payment program and then tell Michelle you make that money. So the numbers have to make sense.
No, everything goes.
Well, that's
through
fine.
the
We're
bank.
just saying it has to. If you're doing it the right way, it's fine.
Okay.
But we see a lot of times where people will make $80,000. They tell Michelle their income is $80,000. But when the down payment program asks for that profit and loss to put you in the right income category, you said you only made 10 of that 80.
Okay.
And Michelle is going to get the information. Yeah, everybody's going to see everything. So the numbers has to make sense.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Right, because if you're making only 10, you're not gonna get a mortgage.
Yeah.
So if you're making 80, the bank is more willing to give you a mortgage, but then we're gonna count as 80. Because we communicate, so it does have to match.
I have a question in regards to the assets. You said something regarding retirement funds, like a 401k. Is that included as assets even though they're not liquid until you retire?
401k is not, unless you're taking payments, that's not counted as a liquid asset. So it does, unless you are going to take payments or without penalty, right, Shakivia? It has to be accessible. Yeah, if it's accessible, because we do verification and we find out if it's accessible, then we will calculate it. But typically, no.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, I think the slide that you're speaking of is the one it said that if they have 25,000 to 100,000. So from our experience, it's based on liquid assets, funds that are available to you that you can withdraw funds from. And so in a 401k, you may not readily be able to withdraw funds. Some 401ks do allow you to use some of those funds for a purchase. So I believe we're trying to just explain that a little bit further. So it's a yes and no, right? It just depends on your individual situation and what your 401k guidelines are.
Yeah, and we will verify.
Hi, I have a question. Has there ever been an instance where someone has applied and got everything, all the requirements that they needed for the bank and still turned around and been denied by the down payment program? And in such a case, where do they go from there?
It depends on why they were denied.
So you can be approved by the bank I guess what I'm asking is, are the qualifications for both different or are they the same?
They're very different.
Okay.
So you can go to the bank and get a pre-qualification and come to us. And when we do your income certification, let's say your income puts you at 125%, then you won't get assistance from us because our maximum is up to 120%. And if we don't have any more money at 120%, we'll deny you for we don't have any more money at 120%. As I mentioned before, for 120%, we are very limited. Most of the funds that we receive from the federal and the state governments are for low income, which is 80% and below. So you can be denied for a variety of reasons. Also for the properties too, because we've denied folks when you're trying to buy a property, if it's falling apart, we're not going to be a part of it. If you're buying something, that's why we require an inspection. If there's so many things that are wrong with it, we're not going to approve that property. So it can be a variety of reasons.
Thank you for that. My second question, I'm one who likes to take notes and also likes to have a definition for everything that I don't understand. So can someone tell me the abbreviation FFIEC, I think it is?
Yes,
yes. Go ahead.
That's the regulators that govern City National Bank. So banks are governed by the FDIC, the OCC, the Federal Reserve Bank. So the FFIEC is a website that all three regulators give us our income limits, our guidelines as far as what the banks are looking for when we are assisting low to moderate income families. So the reason I reference that website is because that's where we get our income limits. The city of Tamarack gets their income limits from HUD. We get our income limits through our regulators, the OCC, FDIC, and Federal Reserve Bank.
My question is regarding the Section 8 home ownership. How does that differ? The Section 8 have a program that can be married with the city's program, or is it a separate program?
We can put it together. So Section 8 homeownership, if you are a current Section 8 tenant, then they can go through what's called the FSS, which is the Financial Self-Sufficiency Program. So let's say I am a tenant, I'm a renter through Section 8. I get a voucher that's paid to my landlord, and then I pay the difference. The same thing once you go through the FSS program with the housing authority that you get your Section 8 voucher through, then they will use the same voucher and they will pay the mortgage, a portion of your mortgage payment, just like they're currently paying your landlord. But you do have to go through, they have their own program guidelines and their own stipulations, just like Tamarack, just like the city. But we work with those local housing authorities, and they have a certain number of vouchers depending on the housing authority that they can use towards homeownership.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My question has to be with, is only those two banks that the city of Tamarack work with, or the person can go to any bank?
The person can go to any bank.
Any bank, credit union, any bank. We work with any bank.
One of the first questions you want to ask when you go to that bank, if they accept the down payment program. Because there are some banks and some credit unions that don't accept the down payment program. So you should know that right up front.
Okay.
My question is, what's the maximum credit score?
Maximum? Minimum.
Sorry,
For our particular program, it's a 620, but there are other lender programs that go down lower, or you can have no credit score and still get a mortgage. What I'm speaking about, my disclaimer is, I'm talking about City National Bank of Florida, our particular program, but there are other lenders that have various, credit score requirements that go lower than that 620, or can go lower than 620. And that's where, when you work with the housing counseling agency, they're going to get you mortgage ready for whichever program allows for your credit score.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, good afternoon. I just have a few questions, please, but it's on the side of the realtor. First of all, the gift letter, is that still allowed above the 1% that's required by the borrower?
Yes, we will accept a gift on our program.
Okay. Purchase in Tamarack, residency not required?
You mean if you don't have to be a current resident?
Yes, yes.
No, as long as the property that you're purchasing is in Tamarack.
Okay. And Michelle, you said that you do combine down payment programs. So for instance, if you're doing on the federal level with the Hometown Heroes, you can combine.
That's a really good question. So I didn't mention Hometown Heroes because Hometown Heroes is its own first mortgage and second mortgage. And not all of the cities or municipalities will work with Hometown Heroes. What I was actually speaking of was, if the city of Tamarack has their program and Broward County also has a matching savings program, we can work with those programs. But you can't put Broward County and the city of Tamarack together. That's not allowed. And the city of Tamarack would have to be okay with working with Hometown Heroes, because that's another program. And that's going back to the question the gentleman answered about using any bank. You need to work with a bank that's familiar with all these programs, because if they don't understand all the programs, they put you in Hometown Heroes and the city of Tamarack doesn't work with Hometown Heroes, and they bring you over here with all your paperwork, and now all of a sudden you get denied. Going back to the lady's first comment, she's approved with the bank, but she's denied with the down payment assistance program.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And last one, from the time that you have your client and they come in, they have the lock-in period, is there any specific time that they must close? Devil's advocate, they have a property, for instance, the condo association, it's denied. What's the time frame after that, if any, before the funds run out, or are they locked in once they're approved by the city? See what I'm saying?
So our application processing time is 3 to 4 weeks. If the applicant is approved for the program, they'll receive an award letter. So that earmarks funds for that applicant.
Okay, for however length of time it takes them to get a property. Sort of.
No, no.
Okay.
So when you come to us for assistance, the only way you will get an award letter and funds are set aside for you is if you have the pre-approval from the lender and a contract on the property. So if you don't have the contract on the property, we're not going to set aside funds. So you
No.
have to have a contract.
Right. No, I'm saying you have a contract and that first property, it falls apart. You can just move on if it takes you another 2 months.
If that falls through, we're not,
Yes.
we're not going to hold the funds. We're not going to hold the funds because we don't know when you're going to get another contract. You will still be approved and you can come back to us. And if we have funds at the time, and if you're not at 120, I wouldn't worry about it. We have plenty of money for low income folks. But if you're at 120, we're definitely not going to hold the funds.
All right. Thank you so much. That's just from the business side of it. Thank you.
Right, you're welcome. Any more questions?
And amateur. The 120, could you explain a little bit more for the layperson what exactly that means versus the 80?
Sure. Michael, can you come back and get the chart? Michael is getting his workout today.
I hope you got on your watch, you got steps. I might need to borrow your watch for our little internal bank competition today.
Okay, so we have this income chart. It's updated every year. This is the 2023 income limits. We haven't received the new 2024 income limits from HUD yet. Okay, so if you look at the chart, 120%, the last row, to be qualified for assistance under that income category, a household of one, you can make up to $80,640, right? A household of four is 115 to 200. So that's the maximum you can make in order to fall into that category. And you see at the top is the number of persons in the household. So it's layered. And the same for 80%. A person can make 53,800 and be qualified at 80%, so they can get the higher assistance. And the same for very low. So this income chart is just very important. So you might want to take a picture. I mean, it's going to be updated probably in another month or so, Shakivia. Yeah, it usually comes out end of April, beginning of May. So we'll update it once we get the new numbers. Because we're limited on how much we can use. We can only use a small percentage of the SHIP funds, which is state funds, for folks at 120. All our federal programs, none of them go to 120. It's only 80% and below. So the state program, the SHIP program, we get an allocation from the state and we can only use 25% of that for folks at 120.
So that means if you're between 80 and 120, there's a limited amount.
Right.
That 120 number you see
no
there is the
assistance.
maximum income.
Yeah, 120 is the max. Yes, I know some municipalities go to 140, we go to 120.
So do you have any 120 right now?
No, we use it all.
And second question, do you work with Hometown Heroes?
No, we have not because they require a second position. And so do we. So if they're willing to take third position, maybe with the cost of housing, but we require second position, and so does the state. So somebody would have to subordinate, and we won't.
So just to explain that a little bit further, if the mortgage that you get from Hometown Heroes is the first mortgage, then the city of Tamarack would be your second lien on the property. But in this case, Hometown Heroes also gives 25,000, well, up to their numbers are changing too, but anyway, their down payment assistance has to be in second. So that's why the city of Tamarack saying they won't go into third position. And that's why I went back to the gentleman's comment about can he work with any bank? It's got to be where the bank understands all of the different nuances of each guideline of the different programs.
Hi, good afternoon. I have a question. Michael, I think I'm going to make you run again. Back to the slide. If a customer has $25,000 and they have to put a third of it, is it subtracted, let's say, just to make it easy, out of the moderate? If the grant is up to $40,000 and they have to put a third of their 25,000, is that subtracted from the 40,000, or they could still get the full 40?
It's subtracted from our subsidy. So they would bring it at closing.
Okay, so it would be 40 minus a third of their assets.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi. My question is, if you're in a category, if you're not in any particular category, maybe higher than a 30%, but not quite a 50%, or at above 50, not quite 80, how do you determine that, where they fall?
Those are maximums. These are maximums. So if you're 60%, that means you're over 50. You're over the 50%. So
not quite 80.
You're not quite 80, but you'll be considered as 80 as your max.
Okay.
Yeah, these are maximums.
So you go to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So somebody who's at that number you just mentioned would get 75,000 instead of 85,000.
Right.
Thank you.
I just want to go back to something you mentioned about funds being available for the moderate and the updated chart. So it says that it's going to update April 30th, and I know the application opens, the 15th of April? Mm-hmm. So going into the application, will we be gauged on this income limit, or will we be subject to what the changes are as of April 30th?
If you apply on the 15th and you have your first mortgage commitment and a property sales contract on that day, and we're going to move forward, we're going to use the current, what is available.
Gotcha. What's
currently.
Published.
Yeah. So for most folks that put their name on the list on April 15th, they're not going to have a contract and a first mortgage on April 15th. So at any time that we receive the updates from HUD, we implement it immediately. So it depends on when your application comes in.
Gotcha. And then the next last question that I wanted to ask, you mentioned that there was no funds available for moderate. Are you speaking from the 2023 through 24?
Yes,
or
23
okay.
and 24.
So starting April 15th, there will be some funds available for the moderate?
Yes, because we're going to use our ship year starts July 1st. So we can start spending from that allocation.
Okay. Sorry if you said this earlier, but thank you for clarifying.
It's okay.
I'm very slow, so I just need some additional clarification. As it relates to the income, in terms of amount of individuals living in the home, where you have 92,160. So if the two incomes put together make over that means that you couldn't be qualified?
That would be correct. If you have a household of 2, the maximum for the entire household could be 92,160. So that would include anyone over 18, spouses, children over 18 that are working, the entire household. That's the maximum.
Even if those household members are not on your application or on your title of the property. So it's myself, my husband, we're the ones purchasing the property. Our adult son lives with us and works. His income is included in the household. My mom lives with us and gets Social Security income. She's not on the loan, she's not gonna be on title, but her income is included.
You all, that's why it's very important you work with a housing counselor, because at some time there'll be an exception. Because if Michelle's adult son that she spoke of is 18 and he's in college, if he's making $50,000 a year, if he can verify he's a full-time student, then we're only gonna count like $480. So before you start doing stuff, be sure you meet with a housing counselor. And because this might apply to you, but this doesn't apply to you, because there are things that makes things different. They're still fair, and they're the guidelines, but Michelle's son was 18, he wasn't in school, so we counted it all. My son is 18, full-time student, only gonna count $480. And your housing counselor stays updated on all of those things to help you see who you really are.
I think that's important, right? Because everybody in here has a different situation. And the one thing I will tell you as you start this homeownership journey is that people are gonna come to you from out of nowhere and start giving you advice about purchasing a home or things that they did to purchase. Oh, I had to pay off all my bills. But when you get to talk to Marilyn or Doris or myself, we realized that you didn't have to pay off all your bills. We really needed you to have that money to be able to close. But you took all your money and paid off your bills, your credit cards, but you didn't have to. So everybody in here has a different situation. Everyone in here has a different journey. So it's important that you take the steps along that homeownership journey to see exactly what your particular situation is. And if somebody comes to you and tells you something, say, okay, like the lady back there says she writes everything down, you write it down and you bring it back to one of us and let the professionals be able to give you that advice. All of a sudden, as you're doing this, everybody knows everything about becoming a homeowner, okay? So just make sure you take everything that's told to you with a grain of salt. Don't just go out and do it. That's the biggest advice I could tell you. It's three things: saving, saving, saving. Save every penny you can. You can't help anybody right now until you help yourself. And making sure that you speak to a housing counselor, speak to a lender, and ask every single question that you can throughout the process. It's the largest purchase you will make. It's important to be educated. And I applaud each of you for being here, because that's what this informational session is for.
Quick question. You said you look at the inspection report. Do you also send the city code inspector out, or just the inspection report you review?
No, just the inspection report is sufficient.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Question, this is probably for the banks or the people who are providing the funds. What if your income is not steady annual? It varies from year to year, because some people have incomes like that where they don't know what your income is going to be between January and December.
That's a great question.
It could be less.
So we actually average. It depends on, what you show on your tax returns, your W-2s. What do your current pay stubs say? So depending on what your income or your career is, like for example, people that are CNAs or they work, their income fluctuates, we're gonna take a 2-year average. That's how we're gonna do it as a lender. The SHIP program and the down payment assistance, they have a different way of calculating your income. So it's important when you're working with that loan officer that understands how they're gonna calculate the income and how we're gonna calculate the income. But from a lender point of view, we usually take a 2-year average, because income, bonus, commissions, all of that can fluctuate. And we understand some people have seasonal jobs too. If you think about like a UPS driver, right? Right now, they're not busy. But I'm gonna tell you, in November and December, during the holidays, their paychecks are double what they are right now. So that's why we're gonna take that 2-year average of their overtime or their total income, because there's gonna be certain months that they make more money than they do, now. Same thing, would apply for certain professions. I hope that helps.
Yes,
Okay.
but I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a lot of questions today. How about for individuals who do not get a pay stub? And this is, again, from the bank's point of view. Yeah. There are employees who just get your 1099.
Oh, yeah, so you're
Don't get a pay
self-employed.
stub, right?
Correct.
You're considered your own
Mhm.
subcontractor.
Right.
So how do you determine, well, you're predetermining income?
No, we're using the history of what you made on that 1099 for the last 2 years. If you're newly 1099, then we need 2 years history. So meaning that if you used to be a W-2 employee in 2022, in 2023, you were W-2'd until, I don't know, October. And now you're on only 1099, which we consider that a contractor, a self-employed person, and you're going to report that income on a Schedule C on your tax return. So we need to see that Schedule C for 2 years and average it.
So we're pretty much reliant on tax return information.
We do, plus that profit and loss that Marilyn mentioned. A profit and loss will be a document that we get that shows what your income is, what your current income is year to date. So from January to March 27th, 28th, how much have you made and what your expenses are. So usually an accountant or a bookkeeper can prepare that document for you.
Thank you.
And your counselor will help you with that.
Hello. Wanted to see about the new income limits. Do they typically go up, or how does that usually work? Just based off in the past.
They go up. I'm not sure of the economic factors, but there's several factors that goes into the calculations. But sometimes they go up very little, sometimes it jumps significant. So I'm not sure with the last year of activity, economic activity, how it's gonna change, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna go up.
Gotcha, thank you.
Can I go? Go ahead. Yes, I forgot to ask the most important question here. I'm here for my son. He live with me. He's a 26-year-old. I'm already a homeowner, but he rent from us. So does he need a letter from us to apply for this, or what does he need from us, from myself and my wife?
For the lender point of view, for our City Smart Mortgage, and remember again, I'm only telling you my disclaimer, right? So for City National Bank, we would want a letter from you. Now, if he pays you the same exact amount every single month, we'll see it on his bank statements, and we get a letter from you, and we show that 12 months bank statements as his verification of rent. Let's say he doesn't give you the same exact amount. He just gives you like, okay, here, Dad, this is towards the FPL. The next month he gives you a different amount. We just get a letter that he lives with you and that you've been helping him to save while he purchased, get ready for home ownership. So it doesn't have to be that he has to give you a set amount every single month, but if he does, then we'll see it on the bank statements as Marilyn mentioned. So there is no problem. He doesn't have to rent from from an apartment complex or anything. It's okay to rent from family.
Okay. Is it the same for the city of Tamarack? I mean, he lived with us. Is that the same for you, Ms. Carolyn, the city of Tamarack? Is that the problem? No?
He's considered, his household would be a household of one.
Household of one?
The down payment program is counting those people that's going to the new property.
Okay.
So even though he lives with you, when he fills out his application, it's going to ask him how many people in his household. He's a household of one.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
And he's not on your mortgage?
No, he's not.
Okay.
When we're talking about household, we're talking about who's gonna live in the new house. Who's gonna live in the new house?
Part of the required documentation is to provide 3 years worth of taxes. And I was wondering if due to COVID, you were at extremely low income limit and then you got a job and now you're at moderate. Do they do also a combination of your average, like for the 1099 people or no?
For the city program?
Yes, for the city.
Oh, no. Income certification is based on anticipated income.
Okay.
We look at past
Okay.
activity, but the income, we look at what you have the potential to make in the next 12 months.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. I know that you mentioned about the process for the program. It usually takes about 3 to 4 weeks. Now, my question is, what if you already been pre-approved, you have the letter, and you have a signed contract already for the property? And let's say that I did the application for the moderator on April 15th, and I have a closing date on that schedule already for April 18th. What's the next step?
You need to get an extension.
I'm gonna get an extension for how long?
You would need it, because we need 3 weeks. 3 weeks is the time it takes for us to do your income certification, to look at all the financial information, and to determine how much of an assistance you will receive. That's the 3 weeks. So when you come to us, you already have your contract and you have your pre-approval from the lender.
Right.
So from that point, you said, okay, City of Tamarack, I have these 2 documents. And then once we have that with all the backup documents, it's 3 weeks.
Okay, thanks.
I just wanted to say something about, we were talking about household size, you all. One of the reasons we are looking at the tax returns, if you tell us you have 5 children, a single person, the people you're claiming has to be on your tax returns, the minors that you're changing, has to be on your tax return, or you have to have some type of legal guardianship of them, okay? So you can't just add people on to fit into the income category, because we're gonna ask for proof, of where they live and all of that kind of stuff. So you have to be real careful with who you're calling your household size, because we are gonna look at those tax returns. But again, we know if there's been a divorce and you got 50-50 child custody, all of that, will be taken into account. But if you're not claiming that way and you say you have 3 children, but only 1 continuously show on your tax return, then your household is you and that 1 person, okay? Correct, Shakivia?
Correct.
So if I'm in the 80% category and I get a pre-approval letter from Michelle for $250,000, will I be able to buy a house for $300,000 since I may be getting $75,000 for down payment and closing costs?
I wouldn't recommend that you do that, because the pre-approval is an indication of what you can afford. So the bank should be looking at, okay, you make this much money, you can afford a mortgage payment for this much money with your existing debt. Okay, we are not there to make you buy a more expensive home. We're trying to lower your payment in a home that you actually can afford. So it's a program based on need. So we look at everything. So you should be looking for a home. If they say 200,000, you should be looking for something in that range.
But it doesn't totally disqualify you though. If it's something a little higher and it doesn't change the payment.
Yeah, it can be a little higher.
Okay.
But like I said, we don't look at one factor. We look at the entire file and we make an assessment. So if we see that, yes, you're pushing 290 when you were doing, we were pre-approved for 200. No, what you're trying to do is have us buy down the price. That's not the intent of the program. The intent of the program is to make the payments more affordable. So you're risking not getting approved if you're trying to buy out of your range.
Thank you.
My question is, if I'm married but separated from my husband, I'm living alone, so I'm a one-person household. How does that work?
You're married.
So I would have to be a two-person household?
No, you don't have to be a two-person household, but your husband will have to sign the documents that for our program. And he will have to show that he's not a member of your house, but he will have to sign the documents.
Thank you.
Say that? You can say it.
No, right.
Go ahead and say it, Shakivia.
I'm going to say just a little bit more about just a little bit more about the income cert. If you say that you all are separated, we're going to look at documents because we have a lot of separated people where the spouse is still, it hasn't been a divorce, but he's still sending money like for support of you and stuff like that. We're going to count that as income, and we'll still may consider the things, they're exceptions, right? Because if we see money coming between you and that person, which we see a lot, we're going to assume there's some relationship there, and we're going to count that money as income. Well, just like she said, he still has to sign their note and mortgage, but they may not count his income and stuff like that. But you're going to have to prove that because the state of Florida says you're married.
You're married. The state of Florida says you're married. They're gonna have to sign the documents. But if they can prove that they live someplace else, we won't count the income, but they will still have to sign the note and mortgage.
And that's the city of Tamarack, but as a lender, our underwriters are going to look through those bank statements or other documentation and see exactly what it says. Did you file married filing separately on your tax returns? Did you file jointly? And then, you know, we're going to look at everything. And if more and more questions come up, I will say this, because in the state of Florida, you're married once you're married. The state of Florida does not acknowledge separation agreements. So that's, just know that there'll be more questions asked because you're married but separated. And that brings up something that we didn't talk about that I will bring up, is that if you are divorced and you're what we call a displaced homemaker, so you've been divorced in the last 3 years, the court actually ordered that you sell your home, that you were a homeowner with your spouse, and you had to sell your home per the court documents. Not you just decided to sell it, but the judge said you have to sell your home. Then at City National Bank, we will consider you a displaced homemaker and you are eligible for our first-time home buyer program again. Again, I'm using y'all see my air quotes. So that's how City National Bank looks at it. If you're divorced and you owned a home, but we have the court documents that show that you had to sell that property, you are eligible to get our first-time home buyer program. Yes, sir.
But if it's not ordered to sell it, but the wife got the house.
Then, okay, the wife got the house and you're the husband buying? Yeah, we could still do that. Yeah, thank you for clarifying, Mr. Bishop.
This is a question for the city regarding inspection. I know you mentioned that if it's deplorable beyond livable conditions, you won't honor the loan. Question is, the inspector who comes to inspect, is he required to inspect based on the city's list of required inspections, or would the borrower be the one who determines what gets inspected? How do you?
The city requires a full inspection and a termite inspection. So the city will review the full inspection, and let's say the roof is caving in, we will not approve it.
Okay, so they know ahead of time what to inspect for
with a full inspection, they do.
Yeah,
that's what we require.
It's a real estate inspection. So your realtor may link you with an inspector, or if you go, because it's an inspection that you have to pay for.
So, okay.
Yeah, and they know what they need to look for a full inspection.
All right, so
And it
am
must
I
be
allowed
included.
to add anything if I, want to add something to the list? Am I allowed to add something?
To what
Or-
list?
To the list of whatever they're inspecting. Like, for example, they have a set list and I want to look at something else.
It's a standard
Just
real
saying,
estate
hypothetically.
inspection. I mean,
Yeah.
you can ask that, but I believe that there's a standard real estate inspection for a real estate transaction. Things that they actually look at. They look at the major systems. They look at electrical, plumbing. There are standard inspections for things that they look at it's an industry standard.
So it's not based on the city, it's based on real estate.
That's the kind of inspection we want. The only time we would have our inspector go is if we are providing rehabilitation with the purchase assistance. There are cases where the buyer may not need all of the funds that they're approved for. And if there are repairs that are needed, that may fall within whatever we have remaining. Because just because, let's say you're available for 85,000 if you're very low, and you only need 50,000 to make the payment affordable, because we're not gonna give you 85,000. It's an up to amount. So to make the payment affordable, you are assisted with 50,000. There's 35,000 that can possibly be used for repairs. So in those cases, yes, we're gonna have the city inspector go out. Then that inspection is gonna be to our rehab standards, not real estate.
So it's after inspection. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Marilyn, question, just to clarify, but that becomes a third application, right? Or third mortgage. It's not an extension of the original grant, right?
No, it's still a second mortgage because it has to occur at the same time.
So you will allow
The purchase with rehab, it has to be closed at the same time. It's one name. Mhm.
For another inspection? Before you can close?
For the rehab, yes.
For the rehab?
Yes, but we would record the entire amount and then we can do an amendment after we actually have the cost of the repairs.
Okay, I do have another question. When you're doing the income certification, before they get approved for the down payment, you said that they didn't have to have a city inspector go out to the house to inspect.
If it's just down payment, no. No,
Okay,
we base our assessment off of the real estate inspection and the termite inspection that's given to us.
If they have any violations on there on the house or anything, there's no way you can tell because of they may have done an addition on the property without getting a permit or something. So that doesn't matter.
We're gonna know if there are things on the property. That's done at title. But for when we look at the full inspection is gonna tell us if there are issues with electrical. It's gonna tell us if there's issues with the roof. So if there are issues that are that can fall within our program, let's say, like I just explained, if you're not using the full amount for down payment, and then there's monies left over, that we can do something as far as repairs is concerned to address things that may be in the inspection, then at that point, yes, we're not going to hold up closing for that. We are going to record the full amount of what your up to amount is. Whatever is going to go to purchase will go to purchase. The remaining will be set aside for repairs. It's not going to go into escrow, it's going to stay at the city because we use our own contractors to do repair work.
But a title search will show us those liens and violations.
I don't know, Michelle or Marilyn. Earlier, Marilyn, when you mentioned the, don't take like 30,000 deductions on your income. So we're doing here gross income, because normally if you're looking at your tax returns, you're considering adjusted gross, which is a big difference from the gross. So just to clarify, are we looking at adjusted gross or gross from your paychecks?
On a profit and loss, down payment is looking at the net. The bank, now the bank does it a different way. That's why we tell you, your counselor get that straight. If you give us a profit and loss, we're looking at your net.
No, not the profit and loss, your regular tax returns.
Right, the AGI is your gross income.
It's gross, it's
Right,
always
so when
gross.
we're talking gross here, it's not adjusted. For instance,
No.
you make 100,000, you take 20,000 in deductions.
No.
Are you looking at
Talking
80
gross.
or are you looking at 100?
100.
Okay, thank you.
And one more thing I want to say, Ms. Carolyn just said that you can use some of that money for rehab. You all as first-time home buyers, don't go out with your realtors and find houses and they need repairs and say that the city's gonna pay. Because you all, those repairs can be way over, you know, your purchase assistance, right? Just don't assume that. Have that seller make as many repairs on that house as possible. The city will do, but y'all, that down payment money, most first-time home buyers are gonna need most of that down payment money to make that house affordable. And if you need a roof is not $8,000, $10,000. Some of these roofs are $20,000 and $25,000. Okay, so make the seller make those repairs. Kind of act like that money isn't there, you know, while you're negotiating for that home.
Repairs are done by the city contractors, so it's not that those the funds are granted to the homeowner and you can hire a handyman or someone. It's done by city contractors and they are not cheap because they have to do the work before we pay them. So a roof that may cost you, if you're paying cash $14,000, it's probably gonna cost about $25,000 with the city.
Question. Let's say based on the household income limit chart, I fall in that 80 percentile and I'm a one-person household. How much do I actually get from the city towards the purchase of that home? I know it says on the right up to 75, but how is that calculated?
Up to 75,000. If you need that 75,000 to make your mortgage payment affordable, it has to fall, what's our front ratio is 35%, 45 on the back end. So we look at your whole financial picture. So within that 3 weeks, I'm gonna communicate with the housing counselor, I'm gonna communicate with the lender, and we're gonna work together to make sure that, because we have lenders guidelines. We have guidelines that the lenders have to also abide by in order for them to participate in our program. So we look at the entire financial picture. So it can be anywhere up to 75,000. It could be 10,000, because if all you need is 10,000 to make it an affordable payment so that it's at the affordability index, then you only get 10,000.
Okay, so it's not that I'm a one-person household and I'm gonna get all of the 75. It depends on each person's
the house,
situation.
the 1 or 2 person, the amount of persons is irrelevant for the award purposes. Award is like, okay, if you are in a certain income category, that household is eligible for this amount of money. You're eligible. It does not mean you're gonna get it. It just means you're eligible.
Thank you.
And that's basically determined by your debt to income ratio. So the city has their income requirements, their debt to income requirements, and they're saying at this mortgage payment, you can afford, you know, this amount, including taxes, insurance, and that's why I mentioned PMI, all those different things add up to your mortgage payment. And if you're at that mortgage payment and you're only at 28% you're using only 28% of your income, then the city is gonna say whatever that amount is that makes them be at that number, that's the amount they're gonna get. So even though it's up to 75, if they met that threshold with only 30,000, then that's all you're gonna get. Or if you actually don't even show that you have a need, remember when Ms. Carolyn said it's based on need. So I've had clients that have come to me and said, I want City of Tamarack, this is the house I'm buying, but when I look at their payment, they're below the minimum threshold that the city has. I say, you don't have a need. And they're like, well, I want to apply anyway. And then I'm gonna go back to that lady. You approve with me, but you're gonna go ahead and go and apply. They're gonna deny you because you're below the amount that they want. So you don't show a need. So that's important for you to understand because it is need-based and the need determines how much you get. You're welcome.
We have time for a few more questions. No more questions?
Thank you. How far back does the bank go in asking for your tax return documentation opposed to how far back the city asks for your tax return documentation? I think one is 3 years.
We asked for 3 years at City National Bank.
The city asked for 3 years as well.
On our City Smart program. So there are other programs that you can do, but I am specifically today talking about our particular product that we have for first-time home buyers.
If you work in a field where you actually have W-2 and 1099, would that affect?
We just calculate, we're gonna average the 1099 income, and we're gonna take your W-2 income as your gross before taxes. And if you get bonus on that W-2, we're gonna average that. If you make overtime, we're gonna average the overtime. If you make any type of commissions, we're gonna average that. Even though you're a W-2, there are some W-2 employees that get overtime, right? So that overtime is averaged because overtime can fluctuate. It's also important that when we're counting overtime income, we get something called a written verification of employment. If your employer checks off on that verification of employment that overtime will not continue, we will not count that overtime income to calculate calculate your actual overall income with us as the bank. But when you get to the city, they're gonna look at, remember she just said projecting 12 months forward. So if you have a pay stub, the last 3 pay stubs they looked at show a large amount of overtime, they're gonna use that to project forward when Miss Marilyn does your income certification. So we have our income way of calculating income, and then the city has their way of calculating income. And it's not, they're not gonna average it over 2 years the way we do. Okay? Did I confuse you? I may have, I'm sorry.
Just a little.
Just a little? Okay.
Just a little. Reason why I asked that was because I know that there were a lot of medical professionals that were out here doing work for COVID. A lot of those entities that were there then are not here now. So a lot of documentation, especially with the 1099s that might be requested for, a lot of those entities no longer exist. So now if I'm caught between the wildfire where maybe the city or yourself asks for documentation, like how do I?
Well, if it's your 1099 that you already filed, then you should have the paper that they gave you at that time, your copy of it, along with your tax return. So, or your accountant may have kept a copy of it. But as far as if you're no longer working that 1099 job, and it's not being reported anymore on your taxes. So COVID came and you were doing, maybe you were one of the people working at a COVID site doing COVID testing, right? You were working that in 2020, maybe even 2021, but you're no longer working that. If you're no longer working that 1099 job, we're not gonna count that in your income. Right, but if you're no longer working that job, we don't count it. So you would give us a letter of explanation that I'm no longer working that 1099 job. But if we start seeing Zells or some type of income being deposited, cash deposits, we might question that as to whether that's the same income and you're just telling us that you don't have it anymore. Does that make sense? Okay, but yeah, if you're not working that 1099 income, how many in here are self-employed? Do we have? A lot of self-employed? Okay. So the key with, when you're self-employed is to meet with that counselor and see exactly what you're reporting, because a lot of times what we tell Uncle Sam is less than what we're actually making, right? So I'll look at your bank statements and I'll see you're making a lot more, but then when it comes time to actually file it in the IRS, you show a lot of write-offs, which are allowed, but back to the question, the question that the young lady had, that's your net, that's your adjusted gross income. So we're gonna look at all of that to determine, and the bank has one way and the city has one way. And that's why you're working with a counselor who understands both of our guidelines. For us, no, it's only 2 years. We want 2 years of landlord, for us, VOR. Oh, it's only 12 months of the deposits for a private landlord. It's only the last 12 months. And so some people, if they Zelle, like the young lady back there says she Zells her rent payment, we can help you just go into your bank account and you put in Zelle to that person, that amount, and it'll just give us a printout of, you know, you Zelle every time on the 1st or the 2nd, and we get that printout. We filter it. So that way you don't have to give us all the statements. I'm not sure how Cash App does it, to be honest. Yeah, Cash App can give you statements too. Yeah, I think there is a way to filter it in Cash App. I know it's easier when it's Zelle, but I'm not sure for Cash App.
Thank you all for coming out. I wish you all the best. And thanks for being interested in the city of Tamarack. Have a good evening.
Thank you.